the funny thing about being called overrated is that if you're called overrated enough, you kind of start to become underrated. And I feel like that's what's happening with Zach LaVine right now, because the dude just cannot get traded. Nobody wants him. Free agencies, the start of free agencies coming and gone. He's still on the team. There's reports now how the Bulls have to, they're looking to attach 2 second-round picks to get off his contract. It just feels like the Bulls have to go to such great lengths to just try and trade this guy, but there are just no suitors for Zach LaVine. And on the one hand, I kind of get why that's the case, because, he's 29 years old, coming off foot surgery. He's a 29-year-old athletic dude, right? So much of his game is predicated on his athleticism, 2-time dunk contest champion. And the foot surgery, he's about to turn 30 this coming year. 3 years and $138 million left on his contract, which is not nothing. And, even in general, he hasn't always had such a clean bill of health. He's missed a good chunk of games over the last 5 years. But like where I just sort of like turn the other way is that, like, and again, this is where it's sort of like he becomes underrated. Like, this dude is still really, really good. Like, he's still really, really talented. Excluding this past season where he only played 25 games because of the foot surgery. Over the last 5 years, the previous 5 years, he averaged 25 points, almost 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game, shooting almost 39% from 3. That's really, really good production from a guy who, again, like you would think, because nobody wants to trade for him, that he's this really bad player, he's this really toxic player. Like, no, he's really talented, a multi-time all-star. Now, obviously, there is the question of, as he enters his 30s, can that production hold up? And there's also the concern that those stats never really mattered. A lot of people like to call Zach LaVine an empty stats guy, can't contribute to winning. And in his defense, I mean, first of all, guys can't contribute to winning until they can. We've seen it with Devin Booker, De'Aaron Fox. It's like not everyone is 2007 LeBron who could just carry a crap team to the finals. A lot of guys need the right pieces around them to succeed, to lift everyone up. And, Zach LaVine hasn't really had that. Who was it? Steph No of Sporting News, literally just yesterday, put out an article. And the biggest takeaway for everyone was that 72 of Zach LaVine's 101 teammates since he's entered the NBA are out of the league. What does that tell you about the supporting cast that he's had if so many of his teammates, again, not just like bench warmers, like don't play whatever, like they're out of the league? What does that tell you about the kind of supporting cast Zach LaVine has had? And when you think about the one time he actually did get a supporting cast, where if you remember during the 2021-22 season, it was LaVine, it was DeRozan, it was Lonzo Ball, it was Alex Caruso, Vucevic. It was this great team. And then the Bulls were the number 1 seed at the end of February. Now, unfortunately, injuries caught up to him, or the entire team as a whole. And they wound up dropping a 6, lost to Milwaukee. Zach LaVine admittedly didn't look so good in his first playoff appearance. But that's where I'm just sort of like, okay, there's clearly a path to have Zach LaVine on a winning team. Now, does that team have him as the leading guy? No. Does it have him as the co-star? Maybe not. But the idea that he just can't contribute to winning, I think, is ridiculous. Now, the question obviously is, okay, so which team can put him in that position to help contribute to winning? And I think that might be the big problem, which is that I can't really think of a team off the top of my head. It's like trying to win games that could use Zach LaVine's services. And even if I can, I think one of the other big problems, aside from the health concerns, is that, because he's making so much money, teams were going to have to give up so much to match the salary to bring him in. And why would teams want to relinquish assets, pieces, guys who are already contributing for this guy who brings so many questions? And I think that's a fair concern when it comes to the idea of trading for Zach LaVine. But the idea of Zach LaVine as a player isn't worth acquiring. I think it's reached such ridiculous points. And it does sort of confuse me why a team doesn't take a swing. Again, if Chicago is willing to attach assets, second round picks, and yes, 3 years, 130 plus million, it's not great, but it's going to look better when you consider the contracts guys are signing right now, the fact that the cap is still going up. And there should be, again, I can't think of any team off the top of my head, but to think that there's not a team out there, sort of in the middle of the conference who would benefit from taking a swing on Zach LaVine. Not that it would necessarily be the perfect piece, but think about what the Kings just did with DeMar DeRozan, right? DeMar DeRozan, not the perfect fit in Sacramento. There's going to be a lot of question marks, but hey, we're a Kings team that's falling, in the standings out west. We're starting to drown. Let's take this swing. Let's take this gamble to bring in this guy who at the very least is very talented. and who could probably help us just off sheer talent alone. Granted, what the Kings invested to get DeMar DeRozan is a lot less than what any team would have to invest to get Zach LaVine, but it just boggles my mind that a team isn't willing to do that, because you can have all those questions about LaVine's health, and those are so valid. Athlete, turning 30, foot surgery, all that stuff. But the idea that this dude isn't good, which in fairness, I don't think anyone's arguing, but I think people argue it to a point of, oh, he's not a superstar. Okay, so what? He's still good. He's still a multi-time All-Star. He's still really good. The fact that he isn't talented, or the fact that he can't contribute to winning, I think when the conversation of Zach LaVine, starts to go into those talking points, I think that's where we really lose the conversation of like, wait, no, this dude is still really good. Like, we're losing the point. And I just wish the conversation would shift more back into the middle of, okay, yes, it's okay to have these valid concerns about his health, his durability. Hey, he might not be worth trading for because of his contract and all that stuff, but like, he's still really, really talented. And it's unfortunate to see such a great talent be put in this position where he just sort of seems stuck in Chicago with no way out.